What is up, fanboys and fangirls? I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined by...
Caroline! Me!
We are presenting to you another edition of the Review Point podcast, of course, coming to you from fanboysanonymous.com. This time we are breaking down the hits and the misses and all the other things we feel like talking about for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, latest MCU film, something that we both quite enjoyed. There you go, it's the end of the thing. We are going to get deep into being nerdy about the MCU and, you know, comic books in general, being nerdy about horror.
Yes!
Because this is kind of a mishmash of the two. And as we talk about what we liked and what we didn't like and everything like that, we want you to give us your thoughts about the movie and everything else that goes along with that. So by all means, drop a comment below. Or if you're listening elsewhere, not on YouTube, and you want to leave a comment in some other fashion or something, send a tweet or put something on Facebook or put it up on the page on fanboysanonymous.com or I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do. But if you are on YouTube, you know what to do with a YouTube channel that you like. Hit the like button. That's the whole point of the whole thing. Make sure you're subscribed to it. Ring that little notification bell. We got a little super thanks thing. If you want to toss a little spare change our way, that's a great way to do that. There's also the join button that gets you access to the bonus features, and you get the pick your poison tier if you want to be on that positive side of things of, you know, specifically requesting something and making sure that we do that. That's a great way of doing it. It's the same thing as the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/fanboysanonymous, it's the exact same thing as what you see here on YouTube. So a couple different ways to do that, including the TeePublic and Redbubble shops. If you want to pick up some merchandise, that money goes straight towards keeping the lights on here and making sure that I can do more of this stuff. And if you want to make sure that you've got a direct means of sponsoring that in the future, those are the best options you can do. But if you just continue to listen to this, that's also great too. And we are going to do the same normal breakdown that we normally do, where we're going to talk spoiler free for a little bit. And then eventually we are going to give you a warning and start getting into the spoilers territory. So if you have not seen the movie yet, and most likely you probably haven't, if you're listening to this on the day of, because this is coming out, it'll probably be posted by the time that people are going at the movies or maybe even just coming back from it. But if that is the case and you don't want to be spoiled, that's when we'll give you the whole spoiler breakdown. But if you want to listen to that anyway, go ahead and do it. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, except for hit that like button and all that stuff. I'm telling you what to do with all that stuff. But yeah, as I said, spoiler free for this little bit, so you don't have to worry about that. I liked it quite a bit.
My turn? Oh, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to try not to give too many details yet, because it's not time yet for that, but very fun. I would say if you get a chance to go to the movie theater to watch this, it would definitely just add to the experience. We had a lot of fun too with people's reactions.
Best movie is one of the best ones. Somebody said out.
Yeah, it was just really, really fun.
And we saw it, and I usually am not a big fan of the 3D ones. To me, it's just gimmicky, and I either don't pay attention to it, which defeats the purpose, or I pay attention to it, which takes me out of the movie. So more often than not, if I get the option to choose between 3D and not, I'm going to pick not. It's better for everybody's eyes. You don't have to worry about, you wear glasses and then you have to double up and put the glasses on top of that. It's usually cheaper, but then again, we have the A-list, so yeah, that doesn't really factor in too much. But
bougie.
I do think this is one of the rare movies where the fact that it's trippy and everything, it didn't take me out of it when it got into the 3D.
Yeah, and I think that even in the beginning, I felt like it was almost designed to be 3D. There were some moments that it kind of reminded me of, remember the Muppets thing at MGM Studios? Mm-hmm. That everything's just shot to be 3D, and there's like, oh, like they're gonna throw something at you, and it kind of felt like that, which was really nice, because like you said, I feel like sometimes they just want to add the 3D element to a movie, and it's just like, yeah, but like, why?
Avatar.
Yeah. God. But yeah, I mean, I think that this worked. I'm not a big fan of 3D movies because of the glass situation. It messes me up until I can get the perfect lineup of my glasses. But yeah, I feel like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing this in 3D as well.
surprised that by now they haven't figured out a way to get like prescription 3D glasses.
That's impossible. Because prescription, you just wear contacts and
but like, you know, to have some kind of like a little filter thing or something where you could bring your own to the movie theater or whatever.
I don't think
because it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, but it wouldn't work.
Somebody could figure it out.
It wouldn't work.
Leave a comment. Do you think somebody could figure it out, or do you think it wouldn't work?
I'm sure they could figure it out, but then it would be really expensive and it would just be a mess because like prescriptions are so different, and everybody has like, oh, this eye something, this other eye something else, and your minus, your pluses, blah blah blah.
Well, I don't mean for them to have it at the theater. If you bring your own.
Do you really think people are gonna go pay for prescription 3D glasses? My ass wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
Okay, so...
But, I mean, hey, I don't spend money on a lot of things, so...
Yeah, I spend money on things that I think it's useful, and that's not useful.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, you know, that somebody could have marketed it out there. There's people that, you know, do all sorts of things with their money. But, yeah, that's an element to it. We, of course, are in the spoiler things. We're going to talk specifics about some visual effects and everything. But generally speaking, I thought the visual effects were great outside of couple little wonky shots here and there, mostly green screen-ish, where I'm like, okay, well, they're standing on like a rock platform, and it very clearly was they're standing on a blue screen platform with a blue screen around them, and okay, you know, obviously they are not traveling into different dimensions, so everything that's like that, it's not real. There's no practical effect of doing that. Yeah, you know, there isn't really multiple of everybody that just happen to cast twins and stuff, but like the visual side of things, of course, that's a thumbs up for me.
Yes. 2 thumbs up.
For the most part, I feel like almost every part of the movie is a thumbs up. I have nitpicky stuff, of course, that we'll get into very specific things, but this fits into the kind of territory of the MCU of like, they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They've got a formula. Even if they deviate from the formula, they still follow the formula of making a quality movie.
Yeah.
So there's elements of this movie that are definitely different from what they've done in the past. I mean, there's some pretty gruesome deaths in this that they do. And yes. They, of course, treat some characters a little bit differently than in other movies and everything. But when they do it all with that same care that they've done for every movie pretty much except for Eternals. Because that one was very clearly, okay, this should have been a series. It didn't need to be a movie, and that would have given it all the space that it needed to be. This was like, okay, this is a movie. They're following the beats. They're going in the right direction, and I don't walk out of this movie feeling like it was too rushed, or that it was not giving me enough time with any of the characters outside of like little cameos, but that's the whole point. They're cameos. And everybody, you know, everybody that has one line in the movie doesn't have 6 pages of the script. But like, yeah, I mean, all the failures of what Eternals did, I feel like this movie was just more along the lines of, okay, we're going to make another MCU movie.
Yeah.
And this one's just good.
Yes.
Not one of my favorites.
I'm not shocked.
I'm not going to figure out my ranking until I actually look at my list and everything. But we just ended Moon Knight, and I have to add Moon Knight in there too.
Yeah.
But I do like it a lot better than the first Doctor Strange movie, because that's one of my absolute lowest ones.
I know, and I get it. I get why we've talked about this, just you and I.
For anybody who doesn't know, and I don't remember if I did a review of, I'm pretty sure I did, but my basic quick thoughts were, this is Iron Man again, but less interesting and less effective. So I was just like, all right, well, you know, okay, so it's trippy stuff, okay.
And I disagree. I love the magic. I love the sorcery, witchcraft, the whole, like, I love all that. So the first Doctor Strange, I really, really enjoyed it. It was one of those movies that, especially aesthetically, stuck with me more than Iron Man, for instance. I feel like Iron Man, to me, it's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but to me it was just like, well, yeah, it's more of like an action thing. And Doctor Strange was more my league, I guess. And I think this one is even better. Mm-hmm. I am biased because this one definitely felt more like, oh, hello, sirens, New York City, hello. Hello. La 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 la. Okay.
multiple filters that
yeah.
I have, and not a single one of them is going to be able to stop these ambulances.
No,
Apologies, everybody.
There's
It's just
something
a
going
thing.
on. That's just the ambiance. Listen, this movie, part of it is in New York City, okay? So just deal with it. You're
Yeah.
just like, you're just in the moment.
We're not too far from Bleecker.
We are not. And Mercer Street shows up. Mercer Street is like maybe like a 15-minute walk. Maybe like
I have no idea where that is.
it's a really lovely street, and that's like one of the bones I had to pick with the movie. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. What was I saying? I haven't had my nap today. I'm tired, people.
About the aesthetic of the movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, not everybody knows, but many of you know by now that I am a big horror fan. Horror to me is just like the best genre. I watch horror movies to relax. I watch horror movies to cheer me up. Like, I love horror movies. To me, like, that's just like top of the line. And this one felt like it had so many like winks and nods to the horror genre that it made my soul happy.
And this feels, I mean, I don't like horror movies. There's a good horror movie here and there. It's not like it's something that I just outright hate. I mean, musicals even are a thing that I don't like almost any musical, but every once in a while there's a musical that's good, you know. A good thing can be good no matter what it is, even if it's something that I'm not too tapped into. But
it's so nice when it happens good.
Yeah. But the horror elements for this, I like that better than the first time around because it was something a little bit different. And I know some people go in this direction and I vehemently hate it. I am not at all the type of person that says this is good because it's different. I'm the type of person who says this was different and it was good because blank. Because to me, change is not inherently good or bad.
Oh my God.
It's just a change, and then you have to have a qualifying factor after that. You can change something for the better or the worse. That's the whole point. This was a change for the better by far. Because the first Doctor Strange, the couple parts of it that I tended to like the best were the more like out there doing something a little bit different parts that they did well. And the parts that I disliked a lot of Doctor Strange, outside of how I felt the plot was a little bit just sort of, okay, it's Iron Man again, were the parts that I felt they didn't fully commit. Like Caecilius in the first movie, the villain, I was like, this guy's lame as fuck. It just happens to be Mads Mikkelsen, and he's great, but he's playing a part that's just as bad as Malekith in Thor 2, where it's just bad guy. There's no depth to him. I can't sink my teeth into the character, and I can't actually talk about why he's concerned with the dark dimension. All I know is he bad guy, no good for Doctor Strange kind of thing. Whereas in this one, there's a lot more nuance to it. There's actually a plot that makes a lot of sense. Although one of my nitpicks that we'll get to is about who the villain is and who I feel it should have been. But then again, I don't want to spoil that because that's a whole, introducing an extra character kind of thing. But I think that they committed more to it. And part of me thinks that the reason why is because of the director change.
Yes.
And I've not seen anything else that Scott Derrickson's done. I don't know what he is known for, really. And not that Doctor Strange is a bad movie or anything like that. Like, on the list of the MCU, it's going to be bad compared to something like Winter Soldier for me, because I just think that's awesome. But, it's still fundamentally a good movie. It's way, 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 way better than the type of shit that we used to get with, how Morbius felt like one of those early 2000s movies. Like, Doctor Strange, the first one, not at all like that. It's way better than that.
And you know what I think? I'm looking up, because I'm really bad with names. I keep telling Tony that I'm very good at remembering dogs, cats, frogs, lizards, and all sorts of animals, their names, their likes and dislikes, their ages, everything. Cannot, for the sake of me, remember people's names, people's faces. But then can you blame me? Huh? So I think looking at the stuff that he has done, he's a producer for The Black Phone.
So I've seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I was not impressed.
You were so strange.
I saw The Day the Earth Stood Still, and I remember getting into an argument with one of my best friends afterward because his review was way better than mine. And the direct quote that he had said that I still hold him to this day is he had said, "Oh, it was good. It took up about like 2 hours of my time." And I was like, how is that the good part about it? Is it wasted 2 hours of your life? Like, what? And so I did not like The Day the Earth Stood Still. Sinister, did I see that one?
You've seen it. It's really good horror movie.
Even Hawk, right?
Yes.
I get that confused with, I don't remember which one, because he's in like 2 different ones, right? Or something.
He's in The Purge one. Are you confusing it with,
Maybe I'm confusing that with The Conjuring or something.
Not The Conjuring. Oh my god, I'm so dead.
It's like a one-word thing or something. Yeah, whatever it is. I don't remember for sure what I'm mixing that up with, but I'm pretty sure that I had seen Sinister. And I don't remember thinking that was like bad or anything.
Sinister is amazing! I own this movie. I love it. Insidious. Is that the one that you're confusing with?
So who was in Insidious? What was that one? Because I saw both, I think.
I think you did. So Insidious, Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne?
Oh, so then I'm confusing that then with The Conjuring because it's Patrick Wilson. And then I'm confusing Sinister with Insidious.
A lot of people confuse Sinister with Insidious for some reason. And I think it's the S's in the I.
And a part of it might actually even be Spider-Man to blame. Because in the animated series, the Sinister Six, they weren't allowed to call them the Sinister Six. Because that was the weird series where he wasn't allowed to throw a punch. You couldn't say kill. You couldn't say blood, all that stuff. So they called him the Insidious Six. So maybe I'm thinking Sinister and Insidious, same thing. And then,
but it is a thing though. Like a lot of people, even within like the horror fans, they confuse Sinister with Insidious. And I'm like, yeah, like I do that too. I think it's the S's in the I. Anyways.
Which is weird that it's like a confusing thing between those two, considering Sam Raimi directs this. And he directs the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And in Spider-Man 2, it is, they're trying to figure out what they will call Dr. Octopus. And Ted Raimi, his brother, the one that I don't remember if you've seen the Sam Raimi ones. Do you remember the guy who's working with J. Jonah Jameson? Who's like his kind of... He's like
throwing names at me. Like, boy. I didn't just say. I don't remember people's names, but okay.
At the Daily Bugle.
Huh.
The whipping boy of the main guy. That's Sam Raimi's brother. And when they're going back and forth, what do we call this guy? Whatever. He goes, Doctor Strange. Then he goes, oh, it's good. Oh, but it's taken. So it's weird that a bunch of years later, after we get a Doctor Strange and Spider-Man crossover of Tobey Maguire, the guy directing the Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire directs a Doctor Strange movie, having referenced Doctor Strange in a Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. And it's all like...
You're just like, oh my
it's
God.
multi-levels of all this kind of stuff. It's fun.
You're confusing me.
Sinister and Insidious. That's what I'm getting at.
But like, you didn't... Let me make my point. So, looking at like the list of things that... Scott Derrickson produced and directed. Yes, he has like he has his 2 feet in horror movies. And I completely disagree with Tony. I think The Exorcism, Emily Rose is amazing. I absolutely love that movie. I absolutely love Sinister. I actually own these 2 on DVD. I know, dating myself, but amazing movies. My guess is that Doctor Strange 1 perhaps wasn't as good. I think it's because there was some resistance to let him make it more like a horror movie.
Yeah,
whereas
probably.
This one, they were like, you know what? This is some scary shit. And we're going to have you produce it. And we're going to have Sam Raimi with his like...
Evil Dead and everything.
Hello. Like, staple in any horror movies, like... coming of age person, like you have to watch Evil Dead, and it's a classic. So I think that the studios are like, no, okay, like you can make this more on the scary side. You 2 know what you were doing with horror movies, go for it. And I think that you can tell when somebody that really loves horror movies are making horror movies, is someone who is making horror movies. because a lot of people get into like the horror movie genre as like a stepping stone to do something else. Like they do like the teenage like screamers and those like silly movies that normally come out in the summer. And it's just like jump scares. And then you have directors like, you know, Sam Raimi. You have why am I blanking on everybody's names? Like I am so tired. The guy that did Hunting of Hill House that I'm like obsessed with. I feel like I'm like. Anyways,
Michael something. I don't know.
You can tell, and I think that goes with any movies. You can tell when somebody's passionate and knows what they're doing. Yeah, like see who directed this?
Mike Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan.
Didn't I say Michael? I think I said Michael. I would have gotten that.
Oh, I don't know. Well,
I get points. I'm a better fan than you are.
Don't make me cry. I had a long day. I had a really long day, and I did not get my nap. Yeah, so that's my point. A long-winded way to say you can tell when somebody's passionate, when somebody's like knowledgeable, and they give them all, and they're given free reign to do what they want to do. So.
I mean, Kevin Feige had said going into this movie when it was first announced, they were going to play more into the horror stuff for sure. So definitely, I think that there was a little bit of let's test the waters and let's see what we can kind of get away with PG-13 and see if people are interested in that. You know, if we deviate too much from the Marvel formula and Doctor Strange isn't perceived all that well, then we know that we need to backtrack and we need to make it a little bit more superhero-y. But I mean, they've been experimenting here and there with a lot of these different movies, and
TV shows too.
The shows too, yeah. Like every one of these has pretty much been, as long as you handle it with care, people are going to like it. Like Ant-Man is a full-on comedy,
yeah,
and Captain America: Winter Soldier is a spy thriller. And you take like the superhero element out of that, and you make the exact same movie, and you just title it something else, and just have some other actor not in a Captain America outfit. It's just a regular spy thriller. There's nothing different from there. And, oh God, what's the movie with Will Smith?
Here comes the Men in Black.
Not Men in Black. For some reason, I'm only thinking of Escape from New York, but I know that's not the movie because that's whatever it is, where he's on the run from the government or something. I don't know. Mike Flanagan, that's the movie. But the whole idea of making more of a comedy with something like Guardians of the Galaxy, or they're making like heist movies with this movie, or they're doing this movie with that movie and that kind of thing. I think that they realized, look, we're 20-something movies deep into this. We can play around a little bit more. What's the bad stuff we're going to get? This isn't going to be rated R. We're going to keep the PG-13. We're going to make sure that we just tone enough of it down to get PG-13.
But also, let's make the point that PG-13 movies have changed.
Yeah, I mean,
a whole lot if you compare it to what it was back even when the first Iron Man came out to now. Like, PG-13 movies are not as tame as they used to be.
Which is so weird that, you know, if you're following PG-13 over the years, like we talked about this with the Review to Will Kill series about the James Bond movies, that every Bond movie up until Timothy Dalton's second one is PG. Because they didn't have PG-13 because that was yeah, you wanted. When they created PG-13, that was around the time of Temple of Doom and everything like that. So that's that section of the 80s.
That's interesting.
Then, you know, something like I know that like the first Ninja Turtles movie, like you've got plenty of Raphael saying damn in that, and it's like you change one of those to a fuck and then suddenly it becomes PG-13, and then you change two fucks and it's rated R, and it's weird. So in this movie you get some specific things that we'll talk about, but it's definitely more on the horror side. If you are squeamish about that stuff, I still think you could handle it. It's not like
come on.
It's not like it's something where you're gonna have like tons of, you know, bloodletting and everything in this. But it is leaning more in that direction. So I would think that there is a chance that some kids would not be a good choice to bring to see this movie, especially if they're the type that their favorites of the MCU are more along the lines of, oh, they like Groot when he's a baby, or
Baby Caroline would love this movie though.
Well, most kids have their issues and the same kind of thing. But like, I could see kids being like that. So maybe if you are still on the fence and you're listening to this spoiler-free section of this, if you have a kid that has a low tolerance for horror, for instance, if you've seen the trailer, I'm not going to spoil too much here, but there's a zombie version of a character. And maybe the zombie stuff might scare a little kid. Use your discretion. If you are, of course, PG-13 age, just grow the fuck up and watch the movie. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go to school and be like, oh, I didn't see Doctor Strange because I'm too scared. You know, I'm going to go and sleep in my parents' bedroom tonight. You know, grow up. You're a teenager. But the elements like that are something that I liked quite a bit. I liked the comedy parts of it. I thought that some of the jokes were funny. I liked how they balanced out a lot of the characters pretty well. I don't think that any characters really felt like they were left on the sidelines when they needed to be. Like, they didn't just like screw Wong over in this movie and put him on a boat and send him away, you know, like they do with some other ones.
On a boat.
Sometimes it's put him on a bus. That's one of those terms.
No, but I thought that was really fun. Just like put him on a boat.
Yeah, it's like how they do with some of these movies where you just go, oh, okay, they didn't have anything for this person. So they start the movie off with, I'm going to go and go on vacation for a while or something. But they handled that well. I thought that this has a lot of good MCU callbacks and different things that are going to be a good portion of what I talk about in the spoiler section. But spoiler free, is there anything that you thought that they missed out on?
I don't think so. I think that this was a really fun PG-13 movie. And I enjoyed myself. I was laughing. I was cheering. Yeah. Good times.
So the only misses I can bring up are on the more nitpicky side of things with the spoilers. So,
and he's so excited to talk about it.
Well, so this is your warning. The rest of this, we are potentially going to spoil things about the movie. So if you are not wanting to know what characters pop up and which ones don't and different things like that, then pause this, watch the movie, come back and check it out later. Or at least run this in the background and have it muted because then it helps with my watch time. But spoilers, warning. Okay.
Too bad this is just audio and I can't do my spoiler dance for
That's
you.
true. But then you could have maybe done that the whole time. And then it would have been as soon as you stop, then that's spoilers. Maybe I'll do that for the next one. So again, spoiler warning. There we go. Okay. So my big miss of the movie.
Bum, bum, bum.
They should have had somebody manipulating Wanda.
What?
Because I like the idea that Wanda's the villain in this movie and that she lost her kids and that's her driving force. But I think they had a huge missed opportunity that they teased even where, and I am not at all a Doctor Strange buff. I've never read a single Doctor Strange comic, including an online one that I could have gotten for free. I've never clicked on a single one of them and read all the way through. I've read bits and pieces. I've checked out like Wikipedia articles and everything. So a lot of characters would be like, somebody could be like, oh, you know, the 7 Lords of Hell or whatever. And I'd be like, okay, maybe I can name a couple, that kind of deal. But they say in the movie, dreams are a gateway to another universe. And leading into this movie, the going theory and what they had teased and everything, Scott Derrickson was planning on doing it before they started doing the multiverse stuff as much, was Nightmare was going to be the villain. Now, Nightmare, from what I know about Nightmare in the comics, he is somebody who draws power based off of people's fear and their nightmares, because that's
Freddy Krueger.
Basically like Marvel's Freddy Krueger in some ways. And if they had the foresight to know that they were going to potentially do Nightmare and they're going to do a multiverse thing and they're going to address that Stephen Strange has nightmares that are actually portals into other dimensions and he's seeing those, and Wanda is saying she wakes up every morning from a dream of having her kids, but when she wakes up it's a nightmare. I was like, oh my god, they're going to lean towards, at the end of this, the person who was manipulating her and just giving her that nudge to jump off the cliff a little bit was Nightmare. And that you could do both things kind of, where you can have it where she was easy to manipulate because she's so distraught over her kids, but how did she get the Darkhold to begin with from WandaVision and everything? It's this dark magic type stuff, and there's evil entities, and there's evil demonic forces and all this stuff. They mentioned Cathan. I don't know if it's Chathan or Cathan. I think it's Cathan. That he made the Darkhold, and that there's all these other demons. There's Shumagorath and the octopus kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that the one at the beginning of the movie is Sidorak, which is like tied into Juggernaut and all this. So I'm like, all right, they're using these characters and kind of going, all right, that's a big, big villain, and that's a major, major villain, but we're just going to give them one quick action scene. So if anybody says, well, you couldn't do Nightmare because it would have been too little of Nightmare and it would have been only at the end. Well, they did that with the other characters too, so it would have been fine. And I think if you would have just made it to where they're like, okay, Nightmare is manipulating Wanda in a sense of giving her that little bit of that push of, you can get your kids if you get this America Chavez and you have this, you know, that kind of thing. Not knowing from Wanda's end that she's being manipulated and she can't trust this other voice in her head kind of thing. And then that way you've got a villain that you can destroy at the end of this, because Wanda, she's not dead. She has a building collapse on her, and it's like the rubble falls in a way that it's like, okay, she could have just protected herself. But she's kind of irredeemable at this point to me, because she's flat out just bad. And she didn't learn a goddamn lesson from WandaVision. After WandaVision, she manipulated all those people, and she felt sorry for it, and started looking for her kids, and then did infinitely worse stuff in this movie. So they kind of screwed over the whole point of her having that realization at the end of WandaVision. Clearly, she just shouldn't give a shit if she's just bad now. So then we watch WandaVision for basically no reason. Whereas if Nightmare would have been the one that's like, hey, by the way, you could have your kids, that kind of thing. And then he's got some kind of ulterior motive of like, she's, you know, trying to get America Chavez and she's trying to get this power that he could then drain from her. He's basically manipulating the Scarlet Witch to doing what he doesn't have the power to do. I think that would have been a better way of doing it. And then you would have gotten Nightmare in this, and that would have been kind of cool too. Instead, it's just, Wanda's just a bitch. And fuck her. Like, I don't want her being on the Avengers team anymore at that point, because she's evil. She's killed dozens upon dozens of people. And, I mean, she's murdered an entire Illuminati in the whole thing. And multiple universes at this point are irreparably damaged because she's kind of a bitch. Whereas if she would have gotten manipulated, I think there could have been a little bit of more leeway on that. That's my big, big problem with the movie.
And I disagree with all my heart. I disagree 100,000%. I think that if you had somebody else manipulating her, I think that just takes so much of what makes her interesting away. Like, completely deletes it in my head. I like that she's the one. I mean, you could argue that she's being manipulated by the dark energy coming from the book and using black magic, which it's, you know, there's this, like, we just recently watched Princess and the Frog, so I'll use that as an example. Like, you know, in the movie, like, with, like, voodoo, you can get something from the other world, but you have to offer something in return. And if you don't do well in your promise, like, you become their slave. And people say that black magic is kind of like that. You kind of, like, become its slave. So I like that interpretation much better than if she were being manipulated by a conscious being. I think that she has a reason why she's doing what she's doing. WandaVision, and we can also say, like, when she's like, oh, when he comes to see her for the first time in that cottage scene, and she's like, oh, you're here because of Eastville, right? And he's like, no. Westville, whatever. It's like, oh, what happened doesn't matter. It's like, that's kind of how we all feel about that TV show. Like, what happened? Like, it doesn't matter. But wait, I'm not done. You talk too much. Let me. Sorry, I need to scratch my leg. Okay, chaotic. I need to finish my point. So like, I like that it was just her. She's being driven by the fact that her whole little like dream life that she crafted got taken away from her. Like, she lost her children, who in the universe they are in, the movie starts, never really existed, and she doesn't have vision anymore. So yeah, she went mad, and I think that that's pretty valid. And I like evil Wanda. I did not like good Wanda at all. And evil Wanda, I'm like, yeah, you get it. Yeah, I love that.
I'm not a huge Scarlet Witch fan to begin with, but I'm like, all right, now she did everything she needs to do. Now the character doesn't need to exist anymore.
And that's fine. If she disappears, that's fine. She could just easily become like kind of like a recluse somewhere, and at some point in some movie, like they need help with something, and they maybe like ask for like advice from her, and she just says something like, "Don't do what I did." Whatever, that's fine. To me, her story's done. I don't think she needs to like come back or anything. But I would have been mad if I found out that that wasn't really her. I wanted it. I understood, because I feel like, not to make this super personal, but when I lost Bonnie, my puppy, I would have done anything to have her back. I would probably have done crazy shit like Wanda did if I had the power to. I feel like, you know, like like she's someone that like lost everything when she was so young, and now that she had a family that she kind of like made up and it was taken away from her, she went insane. Like, she broke down, and I think that that's pretty valid, and that's one of the reasons why I really liked her as a villain, because there is that humanity side to her, that she's doing all this because she is broken.
I think my argument's mostly, you can get the exact same thing, but if it happens to be that there's this demonic force that's edging her on, like, there's no way that they can bring Nightmare into the movies anymore. This is the only time they could have done Nightmare.
Yeah, but don't you think that if they had done Nightmare, people like me be like, oh, this is just like Freddy Krueger. This is lame.
Well, I mean, not to make it like full-on Freddy Krueger and have him popping up in people's nightmares and attacking them and stuff, but if it would have just been Nightmare is the demonic entity that's doing that to her, and then at the end, Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and America and Wong all defeat Nightmare.
That would have feel so rushed.
I don't think it would have been if you would have thrown out some references here and there of like that's, you know, those forces kind of drain you and that kind of thing. There's ways to do it, but I think at this point I'm like, all right, well, you're never going to do Nightmare then. And I don't know. I kind of feel like, all right, we already got through Dormammu. We aren't going to do Nightmare probably. We're not going to do that. What the hell's the next movie going to be? Just the same thing again? Like, you know, I feel like they missed an opportunity. So that's my big gripe with it. The other things are just nitpicky, like full on nitpicky. But then again, there's nitpicky. What's the positive of nitpicky? Like the, you know, specifically little tiny thing is super good. Is there a word for that? I don't know about that. Because nitpicking is typically like a negative. But like, what's like here's a little thing and it's a super positive. I don't know if there's a term for that. Whatever it is, good nitpicking are a lot of things to talk about too. And one thing I would say is probably my absolute favorite part of this movie is just the way that they fucked around with the multiverse. Now, I had heard lots of theories and clicked on tons of different videos of like new rock stars and people that are, you know, breaking down trailers and trying to figure things out and speculating and, you know, having my own discussions with people about, you know, I'd like to see them do this and do that. I don't think it's fair to Marvel when they don't do extra things that you want them to do, that they give you no indication whatsoever that they would.
What do you mean?
So I know some people are going to be upset and be like, oh, why didn't they do the Tom Cruise is Iron Man cameo? Because originally Tom Cruise was going to be Iron Man in a movie at some point, like way before the Robert Downey Jr. stuff. And a theory going around for this one was one of the cameos, especially when they showed the Ultron bots, that was like, okay, that's if Age of Ultron would have went well and Tony Stark created those and all that. Tony Stark's in the Illuminati. And a lot of people were like, oh, so we'll have Tony Stark in there, but since we can't get Robert Downey Jr., they'll get Tom Cruise. And it'll be like, oh, in another universe, the Tom Cruise movie did get made, and that character is out there, and he would be Superior Iron Man, I think is the name of it. That didn't happen in the movie, but I can't complain about that and say, well, that didn't happen, and they should have, whatever. Maybe they reached out to Tom Cruise, and maybe he didn't want to fucking do it. And if that's the case,
I would have been so confused because I didn't know about this, and I'm like thinking, I'm always thinking as like the person that enjoys these movies but doesn't go like full on like you do, where you're doing your research and you're reading things and you're watching a billion videos about like, oh, what this yellow table in the corner meant in this one scene. Like, I would have been like, wait, what? And I feel like that would have like taken me out of it.
But I think if anybody would have said, you know, oh wait, what's going on? And then somebody else like me would have just been like, oh, Tom Cruise was going to be in an Iron Man movie, like that kind of thing. Like they did do that with some of these things. Like I'm sure Black Bolt popping up in this. I'm sure you're like, what the fuck's that?
Yeah.
Now Blackagar Boltagon, one of the dumbest fucking names that they've ever done on there. Black Bolt's from the Inhumans, and they were going to make an Inhumans movie. And I don't remember who it was, but it was like somebody who was like the head of, maybe it was like Perlmutter or whatever. It's somebody in Disney. Like they wanted to fuck around with it. And this was back when Disney had the whole thing of like, we're going to do some of the MCU stuff in TV shows, but that's not going to be directly controlled by Kevin Feige. That's going to be by Jeff Loeb, I think was controlling it. And we're going to do some stuff here. And we're going to do some stuff there. And we're going to do the Runaways show. And we're going to do this, where it was like, ultimately it ended up all being, yeah, none of that matters. The MCU and the Disney Plus movies are the only real ones. Not even like Luke Cage really counts anymore. But they wanted to do an Inhumans movie, and they had it announced even. And then eventually it just became a show on ABC, and it was horrendous.
Oh, I remember seeing posters for that around the city.
Serinda Swan with her long red hair, that is the defining character trait of the character, is that she controls her hair. And the first thing that they do in the first episode, they have her cut her hair. So she's bald, so they wouldn't have to animate her hair.
Oh. So
literally the character whose gimmick is, I control my hair, spends the entire series with a shaved head.
Oh no.
And it's a trash show. It's absolute garbage. It's one of the worst things that they've ever been associated with. But that's because Kevin Feige didn't do it. It was like one of the bad TV show things. But they brought Anson Mount back, and he's Black Bolt in the show. So they were able to bring Black Bolt in and have him look more like Black Bolt, and just kind of go, hey, you know that Inhumans thing? It kind of like didn't really happen, but whatever. But hey, you might go like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I know that guy from the show that sucked. And they bring the whole Captain Carter thing, so you get Peggy Carter back. Yes. And I thought it was cute. The little, I could do this all day.
I can do this all day. Yeah, I thought that was adorable.
She's got one of the best deaths.
She does.
Just getting literally split in half with her own shield.
So good. You know what? It's funny. Since the first Captain America, that's all I thought about. I'm like, I hope somebody gets like split in half with that shield. And when it happened, I was like, oh, thank you.
I'm sure, at least in the background of like maybe Endgame, when they're attacking all like the aliens, I'm sure something gets split in half, and it's because it's an alien, like, you know.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't count. You know, it's like a PG-13 kind of deal. I'm sure he slices a lot of the Ultron bots in half, but a person...
I thought you were going to say, I'm sure he slices a lot of ham. I'm tired. I really thought, and in my head, as I thought of that, I had a mental image
so he's just like a deli slicer?
A deli counter with his shield. His lightsaber.
That's what Cap did when he's got like to that older stage before popping back in Endgame. He's running a deli and he's like that. But Captain Carter's like, Captain Carter's kind of cool. Like that's a thing from there. It's not the most important thing. If they wouldn't have had Captain Carter, I wouldn't have been like, they must have an opportunity here. But Cap's been a part of the Illuminati in the comics, and you bring that in there, and you don't bring him back. You bring her. Okay, that's a cool way to do it. I know one of the theories that people had was that Chris Evans would make a cameo in here as Johnny Storm because he was the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movies. I know that some people thought that you'd get a lot more of those things, and it would be like, okay, Nicolas Cage is popping up as Ghost Rider, and like pretty much any movie that had happened before, or the possibility, like the Tom Cruise thing where they didn't film it, but it was like a maybe. Almost everything was on the table as far as we might do this, we might do that. So that's where I mean, like, you can't complain that they didn't do the things that you specifically wanted them to do, especially not knowing they might have reached out to some of these people and they might have said, hey, Chris Evans, do you want to be Human Torch in this and do like a quick cameo? And he could have said, wasn't I just going to be confusing? I don't really want to do that. I'll come back if I'm capping something, or, But I really, really liked that they did the little Christine Palmer says, I've been studying or whatever under the Baxter Foundation. And that was one of those moments where I kind of perked up and you were like, what?
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? What does that mean? Because I'm not a big fan, so.
And again, Fantastic Four is not one of the things that I'm super into either. Like, I could tell you tons and tons of stuff about Spider-Man. I could tell you a lot about X-Men, but I can't really run down too much specifically about Fantastic Four. I could talk about, like, Mole Man, stupid. But I never read Annihilation Wave, and that's, like, one of the biggest, most important things. Doctor Doom's fucking great, like, whatever.
Yeah, I know Doctor Doom.
But Fantastic Four has been something I always thought was a little cheesy. And just not my favorite thing. But you've got John Krasinski. Reed Richards.
He was so tan.
And he has been, for the longest time, people have been like, oh, he's going to be Reed Richards in something, right? And he's always just kind of like, guys, we didn't really talk about any of this. I know that like the entire internet wants that to happen, but like, no, we're not really talking about it or whatever. And I mean, it still could happen for like the movie that comes out. But he might have just scratched that itch and just did this one. I mean, Emily Blunt could have been potentially Invisible Woman and so on and so forth. But I thought that was really cool because even if he doesn't end up being Reed, and they don't need to have him be Reed. I mean, plenty of other people could play the part. If he doesn't end up playing him on there, at least you got John Krasinski as Reed Richards in a multiverse type of thing. And that's like, that was a really cool way of doing it because Mr. Fantastic's been a huge part of Illuminati type stuff in the comics. And they mentioned Incursions, which was like the biggest, I don't know how many couple years ago, they did this big crossover thing with all the planets like smashing into each other from the multiverse. And it was like, eventually they wiped the entire, every universe clean. And Doctor Doom is God, and God King Doom, I think is what they call him. And he's just controlling. He like all of his security force are all different multiverse versions of Thor.
That is funny.
And they're all just like, okay, like get the security team on there, and it's like, it's Thor from this one, and then Thor from that one, and Thor from that one, and so obviously we didn't get that necessarily, but we got Captain Marvel, and it's Monica Rambeau. Wait, Monica Rambeau, or is it? I forget which one. It's Monica and which one's the other one. Rambeau, whatever. I don't know. Monica's the daughter, I think.
Yeah.
But we've got that version of Captain Marvel. And not the coolest in the world, but it's kind of neat. She gets a little bit extra thing on there. She's obviously not really going to be a part of the next movie because she's dead. So, they killed the character off in the meantime with the 5 years gone from the Thanos snap. So you bring her in on this, and she gets an action scene. She gets to get crushed by a statue. Baron Mordo. I mean, they kind of do a little bit of the Mordo's going in the villain direction on here. They didn't go full blown on that because there's a bigger story to tell. But easily the best part of the whole thing with the Illuminati was the fact that Professor Xavier pops up, and They've got him in the iconic yellow wheelchair thing.
That was so cool. I am so glad that they did that.
They went full blown with it too, because they even had the little do 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 do, and that was when the person in the audience just goes, "Best movie," which he's so perfect for it. And they can't just keep casting him over and over and over for years, because they are going to need to get like a younger Professor X and kind of keep somebody for years and all that going forward. But Patrick Stewart has always been kind of the ideal Professor X.
Yes.
And to get him back and to have him do that, yeah, you could have technically had Wolverine in this, and you could have had Hugh Jackman, and you could have done whatever, but you got Professor Xavier.
That was so cool. And when he goes into her mind too.
Like the astral plane thing.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was just beautifully shot. And it was just a great moment.
Yeah, so his part was like one of my absolute favorite parts of the movie.
Same. We agree on something.
I tell you, one of my least favorite parts of the movie, the number one joke that I was like, God, they didn't do another take of this. This is so bad. I think it's Mordo is like, the Illuminati will see you now, and he goes, the Illuminati? And I'm like, that's so dumb. The Illuminati. I'm like, first off, that joke is like, that was lame 20 something years ago. It's just an old timey way of telling a joke. And I don't think anybody laughed at that, because it's just not funny.
It completely like went over my head.
And then it's like, you're Stephen Strange. You're not only incredibly fucking smart because you're a surgeon and brilliant in all these different kind of ways, but you know multiverses and everything. You've never heard the goddamn term Illuminati.
Yeah.
Like, come on. There's people on TikTok that talk about the Illuminati and how they're all alien lizard people that are gonna, I don't know, abduct you at Walmart or something. But like, that was just one of those, okay, that's a lame ass joke.
I love that they're abducting people at Walmart.
Why not? Walmart's all over the place. You know?
Walmart is all multiverse.
Maybe that explains the people of Walmart things. They're all post-abductions or something. But like, that was a big negative for me. I was just like, damn, you couldn't have done another joke.
That is so tiny. I missed it completely, and you were upset about it.
Because it's a really bad, nitpicky joke. Yeah. Oh, this is one of my negatives. But
I completely I don't even think that it like registered. I thought that he just said like the Illuminati.
He's the Illuminati, and it's like, you know, what do you need? Somebody in the background going ha ha, like that. They should have done another take of that. Even if he just would have said the what, then it would have been better, I think. But I saw a couple reviews that I tried not to click on any reviews that could have potentially spoiled things, but I saw a couple that were complaining that they didn't do enough multiverse stuff. And people were saying, like, why isn't Kang in this movie? Now, you didn't see Loki, but Kang the Conqueror's a big complicated thing with that. And why didn't they do more with, like, alternate versions of these other characters? Why didn't we have Bruce Campbell, for instance? He pops up and he's just a guy selling, like, hot dogs. Or, no, it was pizza bombs, I think is what they were.
Yeah.
And for some reason, mustard to go with that. But he did a cameo in the 3 Spider-Man movies, and if they would have done the 4th movie, which would have been cut awful based off of the script that they had,
really,
it was going to be Vulture, and they were going to have Black Cat, but instead of Black Cat, she was going to be the Vulturess.
Oh no!
And it was going to be Vulture's daughter, which of course then that comes into the Spider-Man movie they do Vulture and Vulture's daughter, and then those. Even the Tom Holland Spider-Man ones are still messed up by Sony. But Anne Hathaway was going to be the Vulturess. John Malkovich was going to be Vulture, which not bad casting or whatever, but Bruce Campbell would have been Mysterio in that for just a quick cameo. And I was like, oh, that would have been cool if they would have had him be Mysterio in this instead of a guy selling pizza. But, you know. They did get a funny joke out of it with the little part of, you know, that'll stop in 3 weeks. And then at the end of the movie,
petty. I love it.
I liked Wong in the movie.
I did too. I love Wong.
Wong's been a funny character in his couple of appearances. So
Yeah.
if you liked Wong before, he's the same in this. So you like him in this one too. It's not like they completely revamp the character and forget how to write him. Dr. West pops up for a split second, just saying like, hey, you know, I was gone for 5 years and my cats died and my brother died. And did you really need to do what you did for about Thanos and all that? I don't really care about them using the Dr. West character. It's a character I never really cared anything about, but like, I like that little inclusion to be calling in some of the questions that people have about like, you really mean that there wasn't another way around this? You couldn't have done this another way or something? And I really liked how they had the Illuminati had done the whole big thing to stop Thanos in that universe. So it was like, even in another universe, Thanos is just like, that character tries to do this all over the place. And, you know, because Thanos is fucking great. So that was a really cool thing that I really liked. Christine is not my favorite character.
Yeah.
But they avoided doing some stuff that could have made it worse. And then they did a couple things where I was just like, that was kind of dumb. I didn't really like the part where the, like, what were they? The demons from hell or something, they were coming out of Steven, and she like grabs something and turns it into like a makeshift flamethrower and kills 2 of them. And I'm like, all right, well then, so they're kind of worthless.
Yeah.
And then they immediately stop being worthless just because she's already proven herself by stopping. So like, I feel like that was doctored in a way where they're like, well, we got to give Christine something to do here. She's got to kill something or fight something so she doesn't just be a damsel in distress kind of thing. But then again, it's like, she's not really a damsel in distress. She's helping him in a different way. But they felt the need to do that to be like, see, we're not doing the other thing, you know. But the story about the love story behind that's good enough. You know, he starts the movie with the wedding, and he's not happy, and then by the end he gets a little bit of closure and all that. So
he gets a lot. He decides to move on. I think that it was really cool what they did with the watch.
Yeah, that he fixes that at the end. I like that.
Like he's moving on, and I thought that was like, it's one of those little, like maybe the opposite of nitpicking.
Yeah, whatever that thing.
Like a little detail, because you keep seeing the shattered glass on the watch. And that represents him being stuck on the past, and the fact that he puts the watch back to work and then he changes the glass. It's like, okay, time to move forward. And I thought that was really cool. Pretty
convenient timing, too, that right after he decides to move forward, Charlize Theron pops up and she's like, hey, by the way, I'm your love interest in the comics. And then it's like, okay, fuck. There we go.
She looks good.
Yeah. I mean, Charlize Theron, I'm more of a Rachel McAdams if I got to pick between the two.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if I got to pick between Rachel McAdams and Charlize Theron.
No way.
But Clea is a big part of the Doctor Strange comics. And at first I was like, I don't have any idea who this character is. The only person I could think of is that it would be Clea. But, I mean, I don't know. And then when we looked at the credits, I'm like, okay, it says Clea. So, like, that makes sense. Because when the first Doctor Strange movie came out, I was thinking, all right, well, the main characters are going to be Doctor Strange, Dormammu is going to be the villain. Clea is going to be the main female lead. They'll have the Ancient One, who I'm surprised she didn't pop up in this movie, actually. I'm thinking about it. Tilda Swinton didn't pop up at all.
Yeah. Did she die?
Yeah, but I mean, she popped up in Infinity War, so multiverse, they could have done something. I figured Mordo would be in the first movie. I figured Wong. And then when they ended up going with Christine Palmer, I was like, who the fuck's that? And then it turns out she's like night nurse, and it's some kind of thing or whatever where it's like, another whole discussion for another thing. But now they're introducing her. So I'm assuming we probably won't get Christine in Doctor Strange 3 if they do that. We'll just get Clea.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
If she does, maybe she pops up in like a quick cameo of just like, hey, Christine, how you doing? No, I'm doing good. That kind of thing. And, but so what are you up to? I'm dating her now. Clea, say hi. Like, this is Christine, Clea. She's like, hey, I'm from another universe or something. But
or something.
Yeah, I don't know where she's from. I think she's like
I'm just laughing at the fact that it would be amazing if that was the dialogue.
I'm from another universe or something. Some guy on YouTube would pick you over me. So.
What do you think about America?
So America is another character that I don't know jack shit about. I know the name. I know she wears a star outfit, like the jean jacket thing, and that she was some sort of magic-y type person. And I always thought, why does she name America? And with Miss America and Ms. Marvel and America Chavez, that always kind of made me go, wait, which one's which again? Like, because it's like, okay, Ms. Marvel is not Ms. Marvel because Ms. Marvel is Captain Marvel, who's not Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel is Captain Marvel, but Quasar is Captain Marvel. This all gets fucking complicated as all hell. So then the only way to really remember it is like, all right, Chavez is like dimension hopping person. Ms. Marvel, little girl, is I don't remember her name, but this one that they're going to do the TV show based off of, and she's like a Muslim teenager. And
you told me.
And I guess she like stretches in the main comics, but they're going to make her do something else. I don't really know too much about it. And then I couldn't tell you at all who Miss America is. I think that the current Miss America is like a black teenage girl or something, but that's a character that, I mean, you're getting deeper into these kind of things.
All the Americas.
Yeah, all the Americas except Cap. and then Captain Carter. And she could Captain Britain.
Yeah.
And then there's Captain Britain. So even that, you just go all over the place. But I liked her. I thought that
I really liked her.
She wasn't in the little kid I gotta protect and it's annoying kind of way that they do in a lot of movies. She wasn't also too much into the, I'm not the little kid that you need to protect and I'm going to be all like, me. She was in need of protection, but she held her own for different parts here and there. And ultimately, if she's going to be a part of this like Young Avengers type thing going forward, cool.
Yeah.
You put her with the new Hawkeye, and I'm surprised that the kids didn't turn out to be real at the end, because I know that those are two that are usually in the Young Avengers. So they didn't like make real versions of the kids come back to life or something. Again, maybe that would have happened if they would have had Nightmare and she would have been good at the end.
Oh my God. And this is the man that like 5 minutes ago was just like, well, you can't be complaining about the characters that didn't show up because, and then he does that, like the epitome of Tony Mango. I love you, love.
About being right about Nightmare and the rest are, But I liked America.
Going back to her, like I really liked her character. I thought that she was, like, from the moment we met her, the fact that she has that exchange with Doctor Strange where she realizes that he's gonna kill her, and she's like, "But we're friends." Like I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I'm into her, and then getting to know her a little bit more throughout the movie, I was like, "Oh, like I like her. Like she's smart, she's spunky, but she's not like."
Obnoxious.
I'm a badass girl and I can do it by myself, everything, whatever. I like that she has
agency.
She has agency, and she also, no, but I was gonna say she has like, she's vulnerable in a way that I thought was really compelling. Like the fact that, she doesn't sleep, like she doesn't dream when she sleeps, and she's like the only one and like everywhere. Like she's so alone and she doesn't understand her powers and she's scared of using her powers. And I thought that was like very reminiscent to how I used to feel about some of the X-Men characters. Which are like, oh, like they're the outcasts. They're like mistreated and they're kind of like on their own until they come and get like protected by
they find their new family in the school. And
so like I thought that was really cool, and I absolutely loved that at the end she's training and
Cumberbatch, and she's like doing the sling ring, and I
like,
made some sparks.
Like, I love that line. I'm like, I made some sparks. I'm like, yeah, good for you. So like I really, really enjoyed it. And I love that how they did her outfit in the movie too, because I mean the way you described it, that she wears like a starry outfit, I'm sure that is very comic booky.
Well, no, it's basically that.
Oh,
in
really?
Some ways, like that's where I was like, I could recognize the character. Oh. So like she's got like a denim jacket and just kind of
like I could totally see like a store like H&M putting out a jacket just like that and have it for the 4th of July. Like. It's really cool.
This is probably one of those things.
Oh, and I also love that she speaks Spanish in the movie. I know that that's like very like small and a lot of people don't think about it, but thinking about like younger girls that are bilingual, having that like that's a really cool moment.
Maybe Miss America is actually what they've been calling America Chavez and some of those things. Maybe that's why I was like, I can't remember which one's which or something. Maybe she's Miss America. Like with those, and that the other version of Miss America used to be someone else. Because I'm looking at another, Madeline Joyce used to be a Miss America.
Madeline Joyce. That's when was this written? 50s?
Let's see. This is
40s.
1940s.
Okay,
so.
that's a very like 1940s name. I mean, I said 50s, but pretty close.
Look at the way that the character used to be, even like that's just the same face that they used to use for like Wonder Woman and all these other kind of things. This is a better version of that. Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
America has really good advice when they're hopping to different universes. It's like always find food first, and you cannot go wrong with pizza.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is so true because when you're traveling a lot and you don't know the food in the area, like you don't know, like always find pizza. Like that's always like a solid choice. I thought that was really cool.
Even bad pizza tends to be at least like at least it's pizza.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
I mean, it's Papa John's. But like they're never gonna sponsor any of my shit.
I make fun of them all the time. And it's hard to find stuff to eat in the Paint universe.
Yeah, that it's hard to eat there.
Yeah.
Just because I guess you're 2 days ahead of you. I really think that this is a movie that needs to be rewatched a bunch of times, but also this is exactly the type of movie that I am going to have multiple videos that I'll watch of people going, look, I watched the whole thing. Like, check out The Canadian Lad if anybody's interested in that guy. He watches these movies and TV shows in 0.25 speed. So he always finds tons of extra details about different things. And he'll be like, you know, this is the same street sign that they used in whatever. And this part says that. And it's a little wink and nod to this or whatever. So I'm sure that there's tons of trivia on here about, I was like, when they were falling through the multiverse, I'm trying to clock as much as I could. And I'm like, all right, there's a dinosaur and there's this, there's that. That 10 seconds alone probably has like 30 cameo things.
And I loved the music when wherever they were, it kind of changed a bit.
See, I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's another thing that I'd like. I'll go back and I'll rewatch different parts of this movie and really get into. I know that Sam Raimi always has this one car cameo in all of his movies. And it's like, I guess the main car that's in like Evil Dead. And that's the car that like they have for Peter Parker and everything. Like, so I'm sure somewhere in this movie that car pops up. And somebody will either be like, did you see that the car that falls at the beginning fight is that car or something? Or, you know, like that kind of thing. Yeah,
probably in Mercer Street, which was like my nitpicking as a New Yorker. I'm like, that does not look like Mercer.
Probably filmed in like Vancouver.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Australia or some budget cut thing. As far as the visuals go, we talked about some of those things, but yeah, there's more of like the rated R type stuff, but not rated R too much. But we get zombie Doctor Strange.
Yes!
Which was really cool that they did the whole thing of he doesn't have to be dead in the universe or whatever, and brought him back like that. And that got you more marking out than almost anything.
I was so excited. I was so excited for that part. I mean, like, there were so many horror moments that I was like, I love when Wanda uses the reflections.
Oh, yeah.
And then she comes out, like, all, like, distorted and I was like, that's a horror movie moment. I love, like, the eye poking in this movie and, like, the eyes and, like, that's very horror movies. The reflection idea itself, like, you know, there's even like a kind of like a cliche in so many horror movies where a character goes in the bathroom and something's weird. They open the medicine cabinet, and as soon as they close it, there's something behind them.
Right.
Or there's
They
always
pass
like,
by a
something.
mirror, and then the mirror version sticks around even when they walk by it or something. Like,
Right, and water too, like that iconic shot in Nightmare on Elm Street where she's like taking a bath and Freddy Krueger's hand just comes out of the water, like in between her legs. Like reflections are a big thing in horror movies, and I really love that. Loved all the deaths. I love gore. Thought that they were like so cool. But zombie Doctor Strange with his cape of damned souls got my nipples hard. Straight up, both of them immediately. Like, it was so cool. It was so cool. Amazing. And just to wrap up, I promise. The mix of practical effects with 3D effects for that portion where he's a zombie were beautiful too. Which is like, you know, again, Evil Dead, like wink wink moments of you know, like the zombie talking coherently like a human.
yeah,
and
with
like,
the mouth all messed up and
yeah. Amazing. And you know, like giving a wink. Like I loved it. And I was freaking out in the movie theater. Nobody said anything. I'm like, really? Just me?
But that's like the type of stuff where I was saying earlier, if they would have gone more into that in the first movie, I think that would have helped me rank that higher. Because I'm like, what I do know of Doctor Strange is like they probably had so many different drugs that they took when they were doing those comics back in the day. Steve Ditko was probably just like...
Which also, if you're going to take a hit or something before you go watch this movie, just like... You know, be mindful. Like,
there's trippy parts. So.
You might freak out a little bit. Just like, be mindful.
But like, I was a big fan of that, and something that like I criticize about magic in general. I've never been a big fan of magic.
Yeah, I know.
Like, the Harry Potter stories are good, but my least favorite part about the Harry Potter stories is the magic. Which people are like, "What the fuck? Then why do you watch it?" It's like, no, the story is good.
See,
the magic.
I don't like Harry Potter. Like, it doesn't speak to me.
But like the coming of age story is what I like about it, rather than when they get into at the beginning. Like the beginning of every Harry Potter story is, okay, we're going to get into Hogwarts this time by doing this method. And then it's like, okay, you just wanted to geek out over different ways you could figure out how to transport. So it's like, it's a flying car. And then this time we go through a fireplace, and then this time we whatever. And I'm like, so why the fuck didn't they just do this all the last time then? Like, you know, that's the thing about magic that I really hate is if you don't make the rules like firm enough and you consistently break them, then anything can happen, and then I have no investment.
Yeah.
So when they do, well, that's half of what I don't like about magic. The other half is I'm not a fan of any kind of like fantasy elements, mostly of a lot of how stories are written with like magic and everything. Like, I don't like elves. I don't like dwarves. I don't like the whole, this one's a wizard and his staff is, you know, this magically enchanted so-and-so and he casts this spell. Like, Zatanna's not my favorite character from DC. I'm like, she's kind of neat, but the fact that she just says pots and that's supposed to get you to stop because it's stop backwards, and I'm like, that's kind of dumb, you know? So when people get into the whole like, okay, he's going to do this spell, and then that spell, and then that spell, that's what I'm like, okay, but then why doesn't he just do the spell that just fixes everything? Because there's limits to what Iron Man can do, where he can punch you and he can shoot you, but he can't just conjure something up. And when I look at like Scarlet Witch and she's able to get Black Bolt to not have a mouth, so that way when he speaks, he just explodes his own head. I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
That was really cool.
So then why does she spend 2 minutes fighting with Captain Carter, who's just a woman with a shield? Why didn't she just turn her into a block of ice or something and just be like, yeah, if I can imagine anything and do it, this should be a 2-second long story. I just imagine that America pops up next to me and then I take her power at the end. So I always think that about magic stuff, where I'm like, all right, you lost me on the rule works for this thing, but not that thing, and we're just going to ignore that for this. And why didn't Doctor Strange use the Time Stone to stop Thanos before Thanos could do anything? Like, he could have very easily, when they were having that fight in Infinity War, just been like, yeah, I'm going to go back in time. 3 minutes. And pop up and kill him. You know, like,
Yeah.
I could just freeze time because Thanos has the Power Stone. Okay, he can shoot a big power blast. But can he shoot that through time? I don't think so. And then, so when you incorporate those elements, that usually stops me from digging some of that. But I was willing to just shut my brain off for some of this and be like, all right, cool. He's got these damned souls are a cape now. All right, that sounds kind of neat.
That was so cool. That was so cool.
So if they would have done a little bit more of that stuff and just been like, it's all too trippy and you don't understand it, then from the start, I would have been like, okay, the first movie's a little bit better off that way. But I like that a lot. And the part that made me go, okay, they're having fun with this, other than the cape full of demon things, was the music notes.
Yeah, I love that scene too.
And just getting toccata and fugue and just, some
I'm sure Danny
Beethoven's.
Elfman also had
He probably had
such a good time.
For them to just be, like da 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 da, and like kind of throw a little Beethoven in there, and like that was kind of like that's what I wanted to see out of Doctor Strange stuff. Because I know from what I know a little bit of the comics, they just do like trippy weird shit.
And also, it's so on brand because like you have Doctor Strange going against Doctor Strange, and they're such snobs
That
of
they
how
would classical music
classy and smart they are. That they would do some shit like that.
and just be like, this is classical music and whatever. And like he's got it next to his piano because he was playing that. He's not gonna play.
And the visuals were really
Journey
cool.
or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, like I thought that was really brilliant. Like, they're such snobby like douchebags, and they would do that.
So that was one of my favorite parts of the movie was the little music notes. And then
I really like it too.
The one little tiny music note from the harp is the one that like saves the day, kind of. So I mean, visuals, big thumbs up. Music, I didn't pay too much attention to the score.
I did,
but Danny Elfman's usually doing a pretty damn good job. So
yeah,
I at least didn't notice anything that I didn't like. But I'll have to go back and listen to that. Action and stuff, good. Comedy, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. This was fun.
Mm-hmm.
This was fun and just, like 2 thumbs up, toes up.
Toes up as well.
Yes, monkey
for
toes up.
thumbs.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know where I'm going to rank it. I'm probably gonna. I mean, I know I'm gonna rank it lower than some that I can think of off the top of my head. Like I enjoy Civil War, for instance, more than I did this. But maybe around like that higher mid range. I don't know. I'd have to look at my list. I don't have it up immediately, but the general range, maybe around like number 12, 13 or so. And then again, that doesn't criticize it as if a sense of being like, oh, there's 12 movies that are ahead of this or something. That's just because there's a shit ton of movies. So yeah, of course some of them are great. Like I'd probably lean a little bit around the Shang-Chi range, that B- C+ tier. Yeah. I think I'd go around there. So maybe around 14, 15. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I have my...
we'll disagree because... this is high up for me for obvious reasons. Like, I can't emphasize enough. Like, if you have someone in your life, maybe you have a really good friend that's really into horror movies and you're into superhero movies. Like, this is definitely a fun movie for you both to go and watch together. It's fun and... the effects are really good. The deaths are really good. And brutal. I love it. It was so good. And then you can fantasize about Captain America slicing some ham.
You can imagine a multiverse where that happens.
You're welcome up for that.
So, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I think we kind of ran through everything, right?
I can just say one more thing. I love you.
I love you. And I love you all for listening to this and leaving your comments. I'm guilt tripping you into doing that. If you didn't leave a comment and you want to make sure that I still love you, then there you go. But yeah, if you agree or you disagree, Same deal. Leave a comment. Tell us what you thought. What were your hits? What were your misses? What nitpicky stuff do you got in mind? Do you want them to go straight into just John Krasinski as Reed Richards going forward? Or are you up for, okay, well, he checked it off and let's get a new one, or let's do this? What cameos are you disappointed that they didn't have? Which ones are you excited that they did? Like, I did not picture that they would put Black Bolt in this at all. I was like, he's a big member of the Illuminati, but who fucking cares? They ruined it with Inhumans. No Namor in this. So that's interesting that they're saving him for Black Panther, which God knows how they're going to do that movie. But he's normally a member of the Illuminati. But we will roll things along. We didn't talk about like Moon Knight. We didn't do anything based off of that. But Moon Knight's a fun story. Not my favorite, but
I enjoyed it.
It was a fun ride for a couple episodes and everything. So maybe we get more Doctor Strange, Blade, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight.
Please, that's what I need.
We need to get some kind of Midnight Suns movie, because if they have the option, do that Dark Avengers horror kind of movie and play around with that.
Yes.
And if they get somebody like a Sam Raimi, then they know where they're getting it with this one. They're going to get something good. So
yes,
thumbs up. Good movie. And the next one that's coming out. When the hell is the next one coming out? Actually, I don't know what's next. It's they've switched the timeline around a little bit. I think it's Thor. Yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder, most likely. So that's cool. That looks good. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other stuff along the way. And if you want to request anything, pick your poison tier. But if you do, just leave a comment and tell us your thoughts on what you want us to do. And maybe we'll get around to that when we get a chance. But that's at least it for this review point. Again, thank you for listening to this. And we will see you next time. But for now, it's time for us to geek out.